Jean Greer here at Stylish Fireplaces, introducing you to Dimplex Optimyst Linear, or OLF fireplaces. They are part of the Optimyst series from Dimplex, so tap water is being turned ultrasonically into a mist. It is not steam, and that mist is being hit with lights to make it look like flame. And I've got mine set to the rotating color kaleidoscopic feature, so you can see all of the different colored lights that are now available on this Optimyst Linear. Previous generations of Optimyst had just the natural colored flame. Any other electric fireplace would have colored lights as well as the flame. So Optimyst Linear does have those color features as well as the natural looking flame color. So you have lots of choices here about how this fire can look. So it is connected to a water line in order for the tanks to remain filled automatically, and then that tap water is turned into the mist. Always you will need air intake ventilation somewhere below the level of the fireplace. Any Optimyst that you install must have air intake coming up from below the firebox. What these units do is they pull air up from below and then push mist out above. And without the air intake from below, the mist will not function properly. You do have control over the amount of mist. There is a mist up or mist down function on the remote, as there are on previous generations. Your remote looks like this, so it's a new remote for Dimplex and for Optimyst. So you can control that mist. On the subject of mist, take note that there are 2 transducers in the box with the fireplace. And the instructions would leave you to believe that possibly you only need one of those transducers. However, there are spots for both transducers to be connected, and you will need both in order to get a sufficient amount of mist to make the fireplace look like a fireplace. So do keep that in mind. The instructions we found were a bit ambiguous about that, and we really did need both transducers. There are 2 in the box, and it's not a spare. So make sure you connect both in order to keep the flames looking as you would like them to look. You can see the media kit here is driftwood as well as crystals. We've arranged them on either side of the flames. You can of course arrange them however you like. And if they're not to your liking and you want stones or something else in there, you could of course order those separately and change out the media, as you can with almost any electric fireplace, where the media is loose and you have complete control over how you display it. This is a built-in fireplace, so the fireplace goes into the wall during the framing stage, and then the wall materials are coming down over part of the firebox. So built-in, locked into the wall. Because of that, it is a direct wire unit. There is an optional plug kit, but you can only use a plug kit on a built-in fireplace if you are somehow going to have access to the receptacle. If you can't get access to the receptacle, it should not be on a plug, and the plug kit is optional. It is not included with the fireplace. There is a built-in heater here, and the heater has thermostat control as it would on any other electric fireplace, but that's not something that was available on previous generations of Optimyst. If there was a heater connected, it was a simple sort of low-high and not a super robust heater. This heater will warm up the room around it, but the other function of the heater here is to warm up this glass. So one of the things Dimplex has learned over the past more than a decade that they've had Optimyst technology, glass would typically fog up when that mist comes out. Just because of temperature differences and the presence of moisture, the glass would fog up occasionally on other Optimyst units. What happens here is when I start this unit, there's a 3-minute time delay where it warms up the glass. So the heat blows on this glass, gets it warmed up before the mist comes out, and then the glass will not fog up. If the glass should fog up during operation, I can then use that same heater function to blast the glass with warm air and clear it up. Just like the defogger in your car, you can clear the glass if it does get fogged up during operation. This is a dual voltage unit, so 120 or 240 volts. And obviously that would change the heat output slightly. Keep in mind that some of the heat here is reserved for that glass clearing function, and so it's not quite as much heat as you would get on other 120 or 240 volt units. And on the 86, if you only connect to 120 volts, you won't have any auxiliary heat available at all. You need to connect that unit to 240 to have heat available for the room. So it's a little bit of a different equation with the heater and the voltage, but it is a dual voltage unit. You can see the lights have been changing as we've been talking. Of course, I can just freeze those on any setting. I can just have natural flames. I don't have to have those colored lights on on any other electric fireplace. I don't have to have those colored lights running. I can just have this natural looking flame going on. Other units that I would compare this one to. So if I'm looking for mist, there's a pretty limited group of products. Dimplex has their previous generation CDFI cassette series. So those are just the mist generating boxes. You have to completely customize the surround for those and build something for the boxes to sit into. But then you can group those together and create different sizes. They're also deeper. This unit has the Optimyst technology integrated, so the slimness here is 11 inches, so a lot slimmer than other Optimyst units you might think of using, and definitely slimmer than previous generations. Also based on the cassette series is the GBF fireplaces from Dimplex. So they have the glass option for the front and they look built in like this, but they don't have any of the bells and whistles like the glass clearing heater or the colored lights or the thermostat controlled heater. So the GBF series would be deeper, a little bit bulkier, and none of the bells and whistles, but it would produce the mist flames. And so you do have some options, and GBF has the advantage of having a knockout rear panel, so you could have a see-through fireplace, which this one cannot do. And obviously if you want three-sided with mist, you would have to use the cassette series, which gives you complete control over how you build the surround. If I'm not looking for mist and I want something comparable to this, I would look to other linear fireplaces that have the extra depth of a 12-inch depth as opposed to the really skinny ones. So other things that have that extra depth. In the Dimplex line, you could look at Ignite XL Bold, which is three-sided glass, but can always be installed with just the single side, and it has the extra depth. Any of the three-sided fireplaces from Amante, because any three-sided fireplace can be installed with the ends blocked, but you get to take advantage of the extra depth of that three-sided unit and create a single-sided fireplace. Amante also makes their Symmetry Extra Tall, which has the extra depth, and their Panorama series has a deep linear as well. So there's a bunch of options from Amante. Modern Flames, you could look at the Landscape Pro Multi, another three-sided fire that can be installed single-sided but gives you some extra depth, or the Orion Multi with their video technology and the extra depth. And then with Napoleon, I would look at their Astound series, which is a 12-inch deep linear fireplace. So lots of options to get a deeper electric linear. Not a lot of options if you really want this mist flame. It is quite unique. You can find all of these fireplaces, including the Dimplex OLF series, on our website at stylishfireplaces.ca.